We're live. Mirko he just signed a deal with Bellator, but apparently he's on suspension with the he's serving a suspension from USADA back in his UFC days. The suspension details treatment that he had to undergo for an injury that he sustained, and then a follow-up surgery. This treatment included some sort of human growth hormone, and he's fought since, despite the alleged suspension. Remember, most people don't know that USADA, the rules that govern USADA, the suspensions they can hand out and all of that, they only work for the UFC. USADA's married to the UFC. That's their only MMA contract they have, I guess. But when it comes to Bellator, Ryzen, and all of these other organizations, I don't think USADA suspensions really hold that much weight due to the fact that they're not part of the UFC. Now, his opponent that he's supposed to fight in Bellator is somebody who Mirko lost to in the UFC, Roy Nelson. Phenomenal wrestler, despite his loss against Matt Mitrione. I think Matt Mitrione was better prepared for that match than Roy. Roy, to me, it looked like he was too confident, knowing that he beat Matt before. He just went in there with the same energy and expected the same result, and clearly that didn't happen. Now, Mirko can beat Roy Nelson. How? I don't know. It's hard for me to bet against wrestlers. It's hard for me to find weak points against wrestlers. But if Mirko wants to go down that road, I think he could beat Roy. Whichever way he chooses to. I think he should go for the knockout. That's his specialty. On to other news. The return of Cain Velasquez. I've been thinking a lot about Cain's return fight, and it makes sense that Cain faces somebody who's also a veteran, somebody who needs a bit of heat coming back into the limelight, and that's Alistair Overeem. His loss to Francis Ngannou was, that was bad, man. That was a hell of a knockout. Alistair's toes were curling, my guy. He went cold. There's a huge portion of his memory that's gone from that fight. I don't think he remembers anything from that fight. His toes were curling, ladies and gentlemen. He was gone. He was in a whole nother dimension. But as soon as he can recover from that, I think he should face Cain Velasquez. That's a hell of a match, especially given that both of them are legends. Both of them have carried multiple world championships, and it's the one fight the UFC hasn't made. Both of them have losses against Fabricio Verdum. But unlike Cain, Alistair has actually beaten Verdum, and I think he won by decision. So we could argue and speculate over that. But I really think that'll be an awesome fight for Alistair and an awesome fight for Cain. They can really see the differences between the two fighters, technique versus out-and-out pace. I'm not saying that Cain doesn't have technique. Cain is all technique, but what comes first is his pace, his cardio. Whereas Alistair has a more refined technique. You can see that the things he does, clearly come from kickboxing. Clearly he has extreme experience in that. He is the most decorated striker in the heavyweight division of the UFC, quite possibly the most decorated striker in the history of the UFC. Him, maybe a distant second is Mark Hunt, but yeah, very, very dangerous on the feet, man. Cain, on the other hand, is dangerous everywhere, provided that he fights at altitude. Let me know what you guys think. Like, comment, subscribe, and I am out.